Today is Thursday, October the 1st. We are in a new month now. We are in a new month. Wow. All right. And this is my political thought. I am your host, KC Phoenix. I'm going to get the social media and side news stuff out the way, and then I'll do my main morning political thought. For social media, thepurpleelephantshow.com is the main podcasting platform. You can listen to all of the podcasting episodes there at thepurpleelephantshow.com. The podcast is carried on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, on about 9 platforms that this podcast is distributed. As for other social media, Parler, The Purple Elephant Show, Instagram, The Purple Elephant Show, Facebook.com/The Purple Elephant Show. You can swing by the page and give a like. If you are on Twitter, at RealTPES. If you are watching this on BitChute, Dailymotion, or YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That way you will know when I upload a new video. And as I always say, the morning political thought is a supplement to the Purple Elephant Show. The Purple Elephant Show is a weekend show. Also on YouTube, if you hit the subscribe button, don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you will know if I upload new videos and if I go live, which that is something I am working on as well in the future. All right, now for the side news stuff. I was right and wrong about the debate ratings. I was right for the range that I guessed, because I believe my guess was between 45 and 60 million or 50 and 65 million. I believe I had said a few days ago. The debate brought in 45 million on regular TV. That's not including streams. So I was right in that part. As for it being the most watched debate, I was wrong. I'm still shocked at this. The most watched debate was between President Trump and Hillary Clinton. I don't understand what the allure was between them versus President Trump going against Joe Biden. It seemed like everyone was anxious to see President Trump go against Joe Biden. They're saying that the ratings on television dropped by about a third, I believe it was. But a lot of people were streaming, because I know, like I mentioned before, I was watching it on Fox, but I jumped around on a few others just before the debate started at C-SPAN and also on Fox Business. And the stream numbers were really, really high on all of those. Not to mention RSBN. I'm sure they were streaming it. And Louder with Crowder, he was streaming it. Value Entertainment was streaming it. There were a ton of people doing streaming parties. So I'm curious how they will add up the streaming numbers. And I might dig into that a little bit more once as time goes on. But let's get into the news. All right. Side news. What I said was true. Comey testimony. There wasn't anything there. He lied as usual. We all knew this was going to happen. It was for show. Lindsey Graham was saying that he's upset, We've heard this story before. We don't care. We want to see action. We already know that he was crooked. Lindsey Graham called him crooked, but we don't care. And there isn't going to be any action because everybody's trying to ride this out until after the election. If they weren't, then something would have happened by now, because all of the evidence that is in front of us lets us know it isn't adding up. So it was as I predicted, nothing happening there. Number 2, lockdowns. Dr. Scott Atlas, who was on President Trump's advisement team when it comes to dealing with the China Wuhan virus, he says that the media has been instilling fear instead of addressing the damage caused by lockdowns on children and workers who are less vulnerable. You think? That's what he's talking about. He's saying that the lockdowns need to end. in the remaining states, because not all the states are locked down. There are states like California that still have certain lockdowns in place for certain areas, and it depends on what the testing rate is coming back as and all this other stuff. But I call BS on the California and all these other states that are still locking things down. Also, another thing in the news, Disney lays off about 28,000 workers at their theme parks. It's a quarter of the theme park workers. And Disney just announced this layoff. On top of that, the airlines, they're talking about furloughing an estimated 45,000 people. You can call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever. I've been called worse, so it doesn't matter. It's weird to me that these announcements are happening right as the election nears. And some people might say, oh, well, the money is running out that they received from the stimulus and all this other stuff and da 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 da. As I always say, once is a coincidence, twice is a pattern. I just think it's weird that first Disney says they're about to lay off at least 28,000 people. And now the airlines are like, oh, well, we're about to furlough an estimated 45,000 people. I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop. If one or two more companies come out and say, oh, well, we're about to lay off 8,000 workers or 10,000 workers, I try my best to not look for the worst in things or the worst in people. I really, really do. And not to be cynical. It's just difficult in this political climate. So I'm waiting to see if more and more, especially for places like with the airlines, how they're saying that amazes me. I know the airlines aren't flying at full capacity, but at the same time, not all of the states are locked down. There may be some people who actually want to see their relatives. You would think during the holiday season, it would pick up just a bit. If some of these stores start saying, oh, well, we're about to lay off some people right before the holiday, because technically it is the holiday season, because we're in October now. Right during the holiday season, they're like, oh, well, we're about to lay off some people. Wait a second, this is the holiday season. Why would you be laying off people right now? Because the unemployment has dropped below 10%. So there are some people out there who have money, who are spending, who are doing things. One would think you would need more people. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Amazon has hired more people. Also, there was a job, it was a construction job set up. It was going to bring 20,000 jobs to New York. That had happened, but then they couldn't come to an understanding on the negotiations and it fell through or whatever. But there are jobs out here. I know the economy isn't at what it was before this craziness, but there are certain parts of the economy that are actually coming back. So I'm just curious. I'm waiting to see how many more announcements happen in large numbers. If they say they're about to, which anybody losing their job is bad. 1, 2, or 20 is bad. But I'm talking about if they're like, oh, we're laying off 5,000 people or what have you, then I'm just going to be like, okay, something's up here. Something's not adding up. That's just my personal belief. All right. And next thing, let's see what I have here. Oh, Nicole Garnett. Nicole Garnett is a law professor at Notre Dame. So all the people in Notre Dame, not all the people, let me be more, not be as broad on that. There are a number of people at Notre Dame who are rallying behind Amy Coney Barrett in regards to the Supreme Court nomination. And Nicole Garnett, who is a law professor at Notre Dame, is one of those people, and she is pretty much out there speaking, saying how great Amy Coney Barrett is. They also clerked together before, when they back a few years ago. So the people of there are a number of people at Notre Dame who are rallying behind her right now for the Supreme Court nomination. Other news: President Trump and the defense chiefs are at odds. This is nothing new. The Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, President Trump had made the suggestion with sending in the military to deal with the riots in the cities, in Portland, Seattle, New York, so on and so forth. Mark Esper didn't like that idea. So things have been a little bit strained, to say the least, because of that. Also, there are people in the upper echelons of the military who are not thrilled about the United States winding down on the presence in the Middle East. Some of those people, I guess you could say the old guard, are saying that the United States should still stay in the Middle East. President Trump is like, we need to get out of the Middle East. We've done what we need to do. We can't stay there forever. And I'm of the same opinion. It's with the Middle East, that particular situation, it's a hornet's nest. And I think the United States should stay out of it. I've always believed the United States should stay out of it. Just let them do what they do. If something ripples over to here, then we go ahead and intervene. But if they're doing their thing, just let them do what they do. They've been at it for thousands of years. They will more than likely keep at it for thousands of years. That is what they do in the Middle East. I don't know why we have to get involved all the time. Now, on stimulus, Secretary Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi, they are still negotiating on the stimulus package. President Trump is telling people that, are telling them from his end, they should go for a bigger package. But President Trump still doesn't want to bail out blue cities. And that was the reason why there wasn't much movement on the original package, not just with there being funding for blue cities, but also being a whole bunch of other junk in there in regards to voter ID and everything else. And Mark Meadows was the one who was doing a lot of the negotiating. Since Nancy Pelosi and Mark Meadows weren't getting anywhere, now it seems like the responsibility has fallen on Steve Mnuchin to handle the negotiations with Nancy Pelosi. They're saying they're making a little bit of progress, but they haven't really come to an official agreement yet. They are still negotiating. So the stimulus checks and all that other stuff is still up in the air. The funding for businesses is still up in the air. The funding for PPP is still up in the air. And most things are up in the air related to the stimulus package until they can come to an agreement. People on Nancy Pelosi's side with the Democrats, there are a lot of Democrats that are telling Nancy Pelosi she needs to just go ahead and take a deal so they can get this done, because when the people go back to their constituents, they can say that they actually passed some type of legislation that helped out their constituents. If they don't have anything to take back to their constituents, they are afraid that they will lose their chances for re-election. All right. San Francisco, in the state of California where I live, lifts its ban restricting indoor worship. San Francisco, which I didn't know this because I don't pay attention to San Francisco like that. San Francisco had a ban on indoor worship where it was only one person per church. For those listening to the podcast, I just rolled my eyes. One person per church was the restriction. Let me repeat that again. One person per church was the restriction for San Francisco when it comes to indoor worship. Well, the Justice Department had issued a letter, and it said that the ban that they had in place with the one person per church restriction was a discriminatory scheme. So, on September the 30th, yesterday, they have now said they have lifted that ban and they can have people, the churches can have 25 people indoors and 50 people outdoors. The outdoors thing, 50, 100, as long as they're social distancing, you know what, yeah, 25 people indoors, 50 people outdoors for church. So that is the new restriction. So the one person per church restriction has been lifted after the Justice Department sent a letter stating that it was a discriminatory scheme. All right. Now I can get to my morning political thought. The Proud Boys. The Proud Boys have been in the news lately. I'm trying to figure this out. Why are they in the news? On top of that, they are calling the Proud Boys a white supremacist organization. I hate to break this to people, but the person who is, quote unquote, the leader of the Proud Boys isn't white. He's actually my complexion, just about. If I'm not mistaken, he's Afro-Cuban or something like that. He's anything but white. But they're calling this a white supremacist organization. And then a lot of people misunderstood what President Trump was saying. This is another one of those moments where I have to wonder, did President Trump say what he said on purpose to get the media to talk about it? When the Proud Boys was brought up during the debate, President Trump said, stand down and stand by. Stand by can be interpreted as two different things. Stand by can be interpreted as one, okay, waiting for the call. And that is how the media took it and ran with it. And also that is how some of the people at the Proud Boys took it too. But also stand by can be interpreted as stand by. As in, I'm letting someone come through, stand by. As in, by standard. Let me read the definition straight from Merriam-Webster, which they might change it after I read this. For bystander. Bystander. One who is present but not taking part in a situation or event, followed by a chance spectator. I'll read that one more time. Bystander. One who is present but not taking part in a situation or event, a chance spectator. Stand by. So it can be interpreted two ways. I believe President Trump, I can't go into his mind. I believe he meant the second version of that, meaning stand by, be a bystander. Don't get involved. Don't take part in the event. Be a spectator. That is more than likely what he meant. However, people read it or understood it a little bit differently. And that's understandable. And as I said, that might have been a thing where he did it on purpose just to get us talking about it, because he does that sometimes. But it's sad that they're the ones being talked about. With the Proud Boys, I don't follow them that much. I know a little bit of them. One thing I know of the Proud Boys, they don't go starting fights. They don't go looting, rioting, burning down things. They're not the aggressor, the Proud Boys. Now, Do they agitate? Yeah, they do. They invite confrontation by their presence. To play devil's advocate, one could say that someone showing up should not invite confrontation. Meaning, if someone wants to show up and wave an American flag, they should be able to show up and wave an American flag. If someone wants to show up and do a rally or show support for the president or show support for an area or what have you, they should be able to do that without aggressors coming in and attacking them. That's me giving the Proud Boys defense. Due to the current climate that we are in, it would be easier if the Proud Boys would let Antifa and all these other terrorist groups do what they do and let them pretty much hang themselves. Let them make themselves look bad. I promise you, a lot of people have seen what Antifa has been doing. And because of what they have seen, that is one of the reasons that they are switching to vote for President Trump. Some people were not voting for anybody. They weren't planning on voting for Joe Biden, and they weren't planning on voting for President Trump. But once the riots started, once the looting started, once they started burning things down, once the arsonists came in and burned stuff to the ground, when people saw that, even though the news didn't cover it, and when I say news, I mean the mainstream media, even though the mainstream media didn't cover it, like they're covering the Proud Boys, of all things, people still saw it through other sources. And because they saw it, they're like, this isn't the America I want. I'm not voting for this. I'm not condoning this. Let me vote for President Trump, because President Trump, regardless of his imperfections, he is still about law and order. And he is not for these riots. And one thing that worked well and has worked well for President Trump is that he has made it clear that he has constantly asked governors and mayors to let the federal government come in. And he keeps saying it over and over and over again. And the people of America have seen that, where the president is pretty much begging governors and mayors to let him send in the National Guard and other federal assistance to get rid of these arsonists, these anarchists, these terrorists, these rioters, these looters. And these governors and these mayors usually say no in Democrat-run cities and states. That has helped President Trump considerably when it comes to encouraging people to vote for him. So when the Proud Boys comes along, it takes away from the attention of the anarchists, the rioters, the looters, and gives the mainstream media something to cover, because those who only follow the mainstream media, and there are some of those people out there who don't know how to have a plethora of sources, they will only see, oh, Proud Boys, this is a white supremacist group, even though the person who's the head of the Proud Boys isn't white. So yeah, it would be more beneficial to the overall movement, at least temporarily, if the Proud Boys would just stand down and stand by, be a bystander. And that's my morning political thought. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting the Purple Elephant Show and also watching the Morning Political Thought. I really appreciate it. ThePurpleElephantShow.com. And this weekend, of course, I will upload more than likely 2 or 3 episodes. Looking forward to it. The Purple Elephant Show on Instagram, on Parler, Facebook.com/The Purple Elephant Show, YouTube, BitChute, Daily Motion. If you're watching, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, be blessed.